Hello everyone, Kaoz here, and welcome to another Oldschool Runescape video. A new era of the game is upon us. Discussion about a new skill has been around for a long time, and in my latest video around the topic I said that I wouldn't mention a new skill until we had more news about it. And it seems like today is finally the day. If you're out of the loop, I'll give you a quick summary. During the 2022 Winter Summit, Jagex revealed the idea of a new skill. They didn't even know what it was going to be about at that point, because they first wanted to know if the community wanted one in the game. And the answer was pretty clear. This time around, instead of proposing a new skill with its training methods and rewards, just like they did for Sailing, Artisan, and Warning, this time we are moving step by step from pitching and community consultation to ironing out the details before Oldschool's newest skill. In today's video, I will give you a summary of all three initial skill pitches, which are Sailing, Taming, and Shamanism. We will talk about general concepts like training methods, and how the skill will interact with the game in general, both when training and exploring. At the end, I will give you my personal opinion on each one, and even give you my personal ranking. I was also lucky enough to be selected as a general contributor in the new skill Discord, so whatever feedback you have regarding any pitch, make sure to leave a comment below so we can add our little grain of sand to the discussion together. And, not to flex, but I got the very first comment on the general chat in the general contributor channel. That being said, let's begin. Alright, the first thing we need to address is that Jagex made it abundantly clear that these ideas aren't yet set in stone. If you don't like any of them, you may vote so on the poll. If enough people aren't keen on the three current pitches, Jagex will just go back to the drawing board and work on something the community eventually likes. The second and most important one is that, on the other hand, if you like all of these, Jagex also said that they are open to the idea of adding even more skills in the not so near future. But that's a story for another time. The blog starts with Sailing, and to those of you who were around back then, this is nothing like the pitch they had in 2015. Also, this is not going to be a copy of RuneScape 3 player-owned ports, which is basically farming but just with boats. You send a ship to explore an island and then wait for the voyage to give you materials. Instead, Sailing will include a wide array of sea activities for that to be the core training method. This would be huge because it wouldn't include a point-and-click experience we have with the current game, but rather an entire new way to interact with it. For example, with keyboard controls, and some of these activities would include deep-sea fishing, hunting for creatures, and even having like an Uber Eats for Oldschool RuneScape by using your ship to go from point A to point B with payload and to get experience that way. Sailing rewards include gaining access to bigger and more powerful ships, explore new areas, access new training methods, minigames, and much more. As my very personal opinion, I was in love with the idea of Sailing as a very first skill, because, well, first of all, if you look at the map in Oldschool RuneScape, there's just so many things that they can add, and this would open the way to do many things with the materials and the stuff that you can find on the islands. For example, for the initial one, you can go to a new island, discover new materials that you can gather with woodcutting, mining, maybe some other skills, and then with all of those you can come back to your ship and then refine it, make it more powerful with some skills like construction, fletching, crafting, and much more. And then with a more powerful ship, then you can make longer voyages, visit other islands, and much more. So not only that, but maybe new areas, new islands would include things like new monsters. With new monsters, there can also be new hunting creatures. If you get them, these could be materials for something else. If there's new Slayer creatures, then let's say imagine you can go to an island that you can only visit with like maybe 90 plus Sailing, for example, and that way you can find powerful monsters that you can also include to expand skills like Slayer, Hunter, and with them you can also have new drops, for example a new seed that will drop for farming, and then with farming you can make these potions, and it's basically a way to give the entire game just this exploration access that we don't really have with the current ships. And the only problem I have with this is that it may not be popular because, well, I mean, for some people might say like, okay, let's go to a voyage and then, you know, just wait or gather some supplies, which basically means that we are combining many things in one, so it could be a double-edged sword. Like, it could offer a great variety, but instead, that could also be a negative thing, because if we're not focusing on one single thing, then I guess some players could potentially be a little bit turned off by that. The second one is Taming. Now, the thing to note here is that the very first thing that probably comes to mind is summoning from RuneScape 2 or 3. And this is not the case whatsoever. Where summoning gave you temporary companions to aid you in scaling or combat, taming will make these creatures more permanent and will aid you in a bunch of different ways to help you in your adventures. This time, you will be able to level up your creatures by doing activities with them. The core gameplay and its ways to level up include domesticating a creature in the open world, interacting with it by providing food, a home, or even just going on adventures with them. And lastly, being more focused on them by training and leveling them up. This would make them stronger and offer more bonuses when interacting with existing content. From some artwork they had in the announcement video, you can see an animal like the herbivore picking up herbs from a patch, and even you being carried by a bird. These are just a few ways in which you are going to interact with the current game, and also we are going to gain access to new areas, some of which will also be related to taming. The skill would be entirely utility based, and the way to interact with animals is what's going to enhance both combat and scaling with creatures related to said activities. So when we talk about animals in Oldschool Runescape that follow you around, help you with combat, scaling, or help you do any other type of activity, veterans of the game might potentially think, alright, this is basically summoning with extra steps, or even reduce the steps in order not to make it as, tedious as it was back then. And why do I say tedious is because I'll give you a very short story of what it was for me. So, back when summoning released in RuneScape 2, I was maxed, if not near maxed combat, and I wasn't even level 99 Slayer, I was pretty much high 90s because, well, I didn't really like it too much back then. But the idea of going and killing creatures to gather charms in order to get from levels 1 to 99 was absolutely the worst thing you could do. In my very personal opinion, someone who didn't enjoy Slayer or like combat that much anymore, the idea of going back and then grabbing all the charms you needed, like gold, green, crimson, blue charms, and then eventually they made some more, in order to then make it a buyable skill, sort of, but then you need to grab your own untradeable items in order to level it up. I think my highest summoning level was 89 before I quit the game altogether in anywhere between 2011 and 2012. So when I hear taming, like obviously I am also going to think of summoning right away, but looking at the blog it looks like it's going to be completely different, and not only are you, you're not going to have to summon the animals, but rather you will be able to interact with the existing ones and then tame them in order to, give them some purpose in the game. The only problem, or issue, not really a problem, that I see with this one is this going to be visible to every single person? Like, for example, if I have level 99 taming and I am followed around by a dragon that's, helping me in Slayer, is that going to be visible to everyone? Like, is everyone going to have a companion following them around? That's going to clutter the space way too much. Right now, pets are 1 by 1, and the biggest pets, I believe, are 2 by 2, like Calphate Queen, Armadillo, and so on. The only other thing that I have with this one is what's going to happen to current pets. Are you not going to be able to flex them? Are they going to be able to be cosmetic overrides? So, for example, you can have a dragon follow you around, but it's going to take the form of the Rift Guardian, the Hellhound, the Bloodhound. I don't know. The third and final skill pitch for now is something nobody saw coming, as this wasn't even the popular ideas from Reddit or Twitter. And it is something called Shamanism. With it, you will unlock the third eye, and you will be able to interact with the game like never before, granting you access to the spirit realm, and gather supplies to produce items which greatly aid you in the quote-unquote real world of Gielinor. How you train the skill seems to have a little bit of many things we have seen in both versions of RuneScape throughout the years. You will forage in natural components in the real world, gather spiritual components in the spirit realm, which for now are called disturbed sites. Draw a ritual circle anywhere in the world, and this is where you will create shaman-related items such as tikis and the totems. And the best part about it, we might even be able to enhance our own gear, whether it be temporary or permanent. As they put it, this is a mix of gathering and production, but the catch is that during the announcement video, the mods said that they are planning to make some, if not all, important materials untradeable, as to avoid making another buyable skill such as crafting, for example. This skill comes from the community's desire for a skill to enhance existing items, and this would be an obscene amount of variety to all stages of the game. Another big positive to Shamanism is that it may even have a way of using existing items as part of rituals in order to help with item sinks in one way or another. We have just a few ways to do this currently, but with the new refined ideas, this could greatly help the game in more ways than training. So, as it's going to be obvious, this is my favorite skill pitch so far, and I will talk just a little bit about some positives and negatives. Now, if you remember, I mentioned that it includes some elements from things we have seen in both versions of RuneScape throughout the years, and so far what I can see is that it has elements from Divination and Invention from RuneScape 3, and also the previous skill proposal, Warding. If you didn't know, I'll give you a very quick rundown. Divination in RuneScape 3 is a skill where you can interact with things called wisps, and you can also interact with things maybe called wells, where you can dump those wisps and give you experience, or you can keep them in order to make new items to interact with the game. It is definitely one of the worst skills in RuneScape 3, so I'm not really a fan of it. But the other element is Invention, which allows you to enhance pretty much every main game weapon, item, skilling, tool. You can even enhance flowers for the tutorial, I believe. So it is huge. It is a great item sync, so it is sort of going to give us that benefit, and we will have to wait and see if those enhancements, or you enhancing your gear, is going to be permanent or a temporary. And then if it's temporary, it could help with item syncs because you could need more of those items in order to keep them going. I also see that this is kind of like a spiritual successor to Warding because it has some elements of it, making your divine circle in order to summon it, and also the items you get that is not enhancing items, it is going to help you with, maybe some skilling combats. I mean, the possibilities are quite literally endless. The only downside that I can see with this, two things, is that number one is that part of it is gathering, and since we're gonna have to get our own stuff in order not to make it a viable thing, then if gathering is another, skill that we're gonna have, which is not going to be 100% gathering, then it will be a little boring to train, not gonna lie. I would much rather, interact with the skill in a way that that you can make it faster for more effort, but of course give it that AFK aspect that we all know and love. The combats, the rewards for combat skilling and then more realms look amazing. I mean, the fact that you could potentially go to a realm, but you can only go to this area at level 15, but then you can come back in here and you can find more things at level 50 and then come here at 90 and then there's gonna be even more. I mean, this just basically sounds like sailing, but for the main game, since you can have, the realms in the, like on Earth or in ground, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, it basically sounds like a new way to expand the entire game that's not in the ocean. So, in my opinion, the best one so far, but let's go and talk a little bit about them. Now, after a quick summary of all skills and my personal opinion, what is the polling approach Jagex are proposing rather than a simple, which skill would you like to add? Well, in the new skill poll, we simply have 3 questions. First, a multiple selection question that asks which of the skills you would like to see refined further. If you didn't like any of them, there's also an option for that. Or you may simply skip the question. Little side note, I personally think they should remove skip options, especially for an update this big, but that's beside the point. The second one is more specific, and it is a single choice question asking which skill... The second one is more specific, and it is a single choice question asking which skill pitch was your favorite. You may also let Jagex know if none of them tickled your fancy. What I'm guessing is that Jagex is doing this for the first question to see if there's a desire for any of the skills other than the winning one, to then maybe propose it in the future if the community wants yet another skill. The third one is aimed towards you taking an additional survey for even more feedback, and letting Jagex know how you would like to see any of the pitches refined if they make it to later stages. I encourage you not only to read the blog, watch the announcement video, but also vote on what skill you would like to see in Oldschool Runescape. When I initially voted and gave feedback, a new gathering skill was the last thing on my list. But with something like Shamanism added, I wouldn't mind seeing that in the game. The real rewards come from all of the things you will be able to do with the skill in all stages of the game. Like I said before, this seems to have all the positive things from Divination, Invention, and Warding, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be a pain to train, especially for the insane rewards that it offers. Next, I was initially dead set on sailing to be the next new skill. Having new areas to explore for more supplies, upgrading your ship, new creatures to slay or hunt, new drops, new items, and the list goes on. The more I think about it though, this could be simply added to the game without forcing you to train a new skill or to go to an area you need for a specific level. If anyone likes this, it may be added as a standalone activity in the future, as it sounds great for the game's expansion. Last and definitely not least, it's not like I dislike taming, but compared to the previous two, it just sounds too restrictive maybe? So you find a creature, train it, go on adventures, level them up, and well, you move on to the next one. I can see these being great to expand the game as well, but I just can't see how this will impact not just the end game, but also all stages, which is something both of the previous proposals emphasize quite well. Ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for coming and for making it this far. If you did, make sure to leave any feedback in the comments below, and if you include the word moneda in your contribution, you will be entered in a bond giveaway, where I will pick the winner at random on a livestream coming up on Friday. A massive thank you to all my channel members. You boys and girls are insane, and your support goes a long way. If you want to further support this channel, click the join button below to see all the cool perks and benefits you can get in the videos, in the live streams, and of course in the Discord. Stay tuned for the next video, where I will show you how to get level 99 magic in the most efficient, fastest, or profitable way possible. Have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I will see you then. Peace.